What's up guys, today we're going to be having a look at these two Oris Aquis watches that I currently have in my collection. These are two of my favourite watches, and Oris Aquis, ever since I got my first one, which was the blue gradient dial version in 2017, have been some of my favourite watches at point. And it's not just because of the colours, it's also because these watches, even though they are essentially the same in everything from build quality to materials used to the movement used, which is a Oris caliber 733. However, that is just basically a base model Sellita SW200, which is obviously nothing special, and you can find them watches that cost less than a third of the price of either one of these Oris Aquis. And the power reserve is about 38 hours, so not impressive at all. I've been getting a fluctuation of about 10 to 15 seconds fast per day on the green model that I have here on my left, also called the Oris Aquis Hulk. And then on the right, I've been getting around 6 to 7 seconds fast per day. So once again, the tolerances on these movements are not great and nothing impressive in that regard. And I think that that is one thing that many people who maybe haven't actually owned an Oris Aquis, maybe haven't actually had one in their hand, don't seem to understand when it comes to why so many people, myself included, obviously think that the Oris Aquis is such a great watch for the price. And I think it boils down to this being a case of a watch being much more than the sum of its parts. Because if you were to just try and make a paper-based, objective, reasonable explanation of what makes the Oris Aquis so special, I think you probably have a hard time doing that. Because yes, they do have a great bracelet, although it is integrated, which some people don't like. I personally don't have any problem with it because it is such a good bracelet that I really don't have any need to change it, nor would I really want to. Now, I do have a complaint regarding the updated model that I think was introduced in 2018, which made the bracelet much thinner than the previous model, and also shaved off just a tiny bit of size from the lugs and from the case width, which personally I just don't like. I understand that they tried to make it more streamlined to appeal to a bigger audience, but I think that the previous bracelet, which was much chunkier, much bigger than this, and had just a much more interesting design, because even though they've tried to retain the same cuts on the bracelet, it just doesn't work as well because you don't have that much of a 3D effect as you did with the previous model. So personally, I don't think this is an improvement. I think the previous bracelet was much better than this one. However, this is still a excellent bracelet. My big complaint with this bracelet is regarding the fact that it doesn't have for example, a glide adjustment system like you can find on many watches costing half the price, like the Christopher Ward C60 Trident 600 that I have. It does have that mechanism. The only thing you can do here to try and get a bit of a size difference on the bracelet is using a regular diver's extension, which is just too big to be used, for example, if your wrist was to swell up, because you're going to be gaining almost 2 links of extra size. So yeah, that's probably my only complaint when it comes to the bracelet. Now, as you can see, this dial is just gorgeous, and this is one of the things that I think really Oris have managed to absolutely perfect. It's the colors that they use in their dials, regardless of what model we're looking at, regardless of if it's a limited edition or if it's one of their base standard colors. They just execute these colors so well. For example, this Oris Aquis Hulk, it looks even dark black, even in some lights, but then as soon as it catches the light, it just gives that just gorgeous emerald glow, and it's so vibrant, and it's just a perfect green dial. I've never seen a better green dial on any watch that I've had, and I've had quite a few over the years. And I think it just goes to show one of the aspects that makes Oris Aquis so special is how they managed to figure out what the perfect colors to put on their watches. But as I was talking about before, besides that bracelet, you have a ceramic bezel, you have a sapphire crystal with a pretty much non-existent anti-reflective coating, which some people don't like. I personally think it adds to the look of the watch. I don't have any problem with there being so much glare and reflections on the crystal. Personally, I don't think I would have preferred it with a sapphire crystal with an application of AR coating similar to the ones I have in my Citizen Grand Tourings, which in some angles it looks like there's not even any crystal there. I think that it looks really good with the glare on this watch, which obviously is completely subjective. Some people hate it. I don't have any problem with it. But then you have some pretty basic dial, applied indices, basic handset, nothing particularly special. There's no frame around the date window. The case, while it is interesting, it's mainly interesting because of the crown guards. Besides that, there's nothing really special about the finishing on the case. It's all brushed finishing. On the back you have, as I said, a standard SW200 movement that hasn't even been decorated, besides adding that customary red Oris rotor, so it's really nothing to look at either. I mean, it's hard to justify the price of around $2,000 retail for this model, or around $2,500, $2,600 for the Oris Lake Baikal. It's hard to justify that when you just look at it from a objective standpoint. When you have the watch in your hand, that's when I think, at least subjectively speaking, that this watch punches well above its weight in terms of presence, in terms of its look, in terms of its quality feel. I mean, I think this watch has no problem competed with other dive watches that cost 2, 3, or even 4 times as much as this one. And I think that just boils down to how well Oris have managed to nail their design, to nail this look, and to make it an iconic look that you can instantly recognize. This is no homage, this is no standard run-of-the-mill dive watch. This is an Oris Aquis, and it's instantly recognizable by anyone who has ever even given a passing glance at an Oris Aquis in the past. And that's what I think is one of the reasons why so many people like these watches, and why they have become much more popular over the past 4 and 5 years. Now, one thing I do have to admit is that Oris does release what seems to be an exaggerated amount of Oris Aquis models. I mean, it seems like every month there's 2 or 3 new models that have been introduced with limited edition runs. But at the end of the day, personally, as long as you pick the right one, and as long as you get it for a good price. For example, for this Lake Baikal, I paid around £1,150, which I'm not sure how much it would be in dollars. I'm thinking about $1,350, which is well below retail, and it's even a good price in the used market. So for this kind of money, or for the £700, and yes, that was a complete bargain that I managed to get on the Oris Aquis Hulk, I think for that price, you're really not going to lose any money if you sell it, and you're probably likely to make a small profit if you hold on to it for a year or 2, as long as you don't absolutely beat it up. For example, the first Oris Aquis I had with the gradient blue dial, I managed to sell for around a 10% profit a year later. Now, this Oris Lake Baikal is just one of the most stunning dials I've ever seen on a dive watch. It has, once again, everything identical to the previous Oris Aquis we just saw, but that color, doing it in an inverted way, as I've seen many other companies do, which is typically with the darkest spot being in the center of the watch and then getting brighter as it goes out to the edges. Oris Aquis have tried to emulate a frozen lake, because this is obviously a tribute to the Lake Baikal, the biggest lake in the world, a lake situated in Russia. So they've managed to make this look like kind of an icy blue that starts off with a really pale blue in the center, and then it turns into a dark, like a navy blue, which blends perfectly into the shade of blue used in the bezel. I mean, it's just a stunning watch, and trust me, this video, or videos in general, do not pay this watch any justice. You have to really see this in person to appreciate it, because it is like a chameleon watch. It does change the way it looks drastically according to what lighting conditions you're looking at it in. Now, This Oris Lake Baikal has been probably the watch that has received the most compliments and the most attention from my family members, from my girlfriend. They all love this watch. They all think it's a gorgeous watch. And it's not just gorgeous on the front, on the back you also have a very, very nicely executed case back with, once again, an image trying to emulate a frozen lake with the Oris Lake Baikal limited edition and the number of the run. This is number 375 out of 1999, and it does change a bit also the appearance of the outer case on the case back with deeper holes than the Oris Aquis Hulk, so they have made a few differences there, but mainly this is pretty much the same watch as the previous one. However, because of that difference in look, because of that just gorgeous mixture of tones of blue, I mean, this really separates itself from the Oris Aquis Hulk, and that is once again what I think so many people also enjoy and like about Oris Aquis, is that you could have a collection based entirely on Oris Aquis different models, and you would have a pretty interesting collection. Not necessarily something I would do, but there's so many different colors, so many different great looking Oris Aquis models that you could really do that if you were so inclined. And once again, with this Lake Baikal, I'm thinking probably in the course of 1 or 2 years you're probably going to see the price of this increase, because once again it is such a stunning dial, unlike any other dive watch dial I personally have seen, at least for this price point. Now, as I was saying, these watches really have to be held to be appreciated. I think that some people don't really understand what is so special about Oris Aquis, because as I said at the start of the video, they've only ever seen them on videos, on pictures, on reviews. I think that this really is the kind of watch that you want to go into a shop and try on, and then I think a lot of people will get it. They'll understand why these watches are so popular. Now, one thing I could say is I would have very much liked this Oris Aquis Lake Baikal to also be in a different size offering. For example, I'm wearing currently the Citizen Grand Touring Sport with a blue dial, which is one of my favorite watches. My only complaint about this watch is that it doesn't have a ceramic bezel. The bezel does scratch very, very easily, which is unfortunate, but it's just a stunning, absolutely gorgeous watch. But I would have liked this Oris Aquis Lake Baikal to be in a smaller case size also, to have maybe 1 or 2 options and not only the 43.5mm option, which is the one that I've got in this video and the only one you're going to be able to buy in this color. I think personally that on the Hulk, maybe the 39.5, if I'm not mistaken, is the size that goes below the 43.5. It's a bit too small for me, but I think on this Lake Baikal that would have looked really interesting. I think it would have made the effect of this dial even more dramatic, because it would have been kind of encapsulated into a smaller space. However, once again, I can't really complain about either one of these watches, because they're absolutely stunning watches, and they're watches that I wear pretty much every day, or at least every other day, even though my collection is over 20 pieces at the moment, just because they're just so easy to wear, they're just so easy to put on and pretty much match with whatever you want to match them with. They're so versatile, and yeah, I mean, I have nothing but positive things in reality to say about these watches. Anyways guys, I hope you enjoyed that review. Till the next time, peace.